Welcome to Retirement Perspectives with Bob Horn. If your retirement picture is blurry, Bob and the team at NuVenture Financial Group can help you put your retirement into focus. Bob strives to understand all of your financial needs to help guide you on the path to your retirement goals. This is Retirement Perspectives with Bob Horn.
In life, there are many things you can't control. The good news is that there are some things you can control, and that includes how much you'll pay in taxes. On today's show, you'll learn how to keep more of your hard-earned money and give less to Uncle Sam. Plus, Bob has a simple way of helping you understand how your retirement accounts are taxed. Bob, it's great to be back with you again.
Thank you very much. Great to see you too, Ian.
It's always a pleasure. I'm super excited about today's show. We're talking about a very hot topic, and that's taxes and how we actually do have control over that. And when it comes to control, we all like it, right? Like there are many things we can't control, like maybe the weather, the traffic jam. How about your spouse? Okay, like you can't control your spouse.
I know, you cannot control your spouse.
As much as we want to, we can't. But kind of talk about how we can have a little control over our taxes.
Well, you know, it's funny that a lot of people, there's this misconception that you can't control your taxes. A lot of people come into our office and they'll think, well, I just got to pay the taxes on my accounts and it is what it is. Or that tax planning is for the ultra rich, that only the rich can benefit from a lot of the tax strategies out there. And Danielle, that's just not the case. So at our office, we utilize a number of different tax strategies to help people minimize or totally mitigate a tax environment they may have. So we do a lot of that planning at our office.
I know many people have questions about this, especially in retirement, of how they can have control. Kind of talk about the big impact that taxes can have on our retirement.
Well, so the big impact, and you'll see this later on as I break it down in our segment, but there's three big tax categories that we want to utilize a lot. And they all have their differences in the way taxes were or are going to be paid. So we have our pre-tax accounts like our 401ks and our 403bs and that kind of thing. These are tax categories where taxes have never been paid and they're going to be owed in the future. In the middle bucket, we have our taxable accounts. That's money typically at your bank, maybe in a brokerage account, a money market, that kind of thing. And what happens there is you're going to pay capital gains taxes on any gains you have potentially every single year. And then the last category, which is the category we really love at our office, is the Roth IRA category. We talk about getting Uncle Sam out of your back pocket. In the Roth IRA, taxes have been paid, and so you never owe a penny of taxes ever again in the Roth IRAs. So we'll talk a lot about that and how to maximize those different buckets. You know, another thing real quick, Danielle, that a lot of people don't understand is the way Social Security is taxed. And so years ago, Social Security was not taxed. Now it is, and so you might have your Social Security be up to 85% of it might be taxable. Now, a lot of cases, less of it's taxable, but the maximum 85% of your Social Security may be taxable. We talk a lot about that also at the office.
I feel like there is a lot of things to consider, especially during retirement, which is why I love how you and your team walk your clients through this. You do this, been doing this for 15 plus years?
Long time.
A long time, and so you're familiar with the questions that people have. Kind of talk about how can we start taking some control of taxes in retirement?
Well, I always talk about the difference between tax planning and tax preparation. Unfortunately, what we see is a lot of accountants or CPAs are simply just filing your taxes. They're not doing a lot of preparation and looking forward. We often equate this to being in a car, and you can either choose to look through the rearview mirror or you can look through the windshield. And so looking through the rearview mirror is what's already happened. And we find a lot of times that a lot of tax preparers, accountants, CPAs, all they're merely doing is looking behind what's already happened and trying to fix that. What we're going to do at our office is be very tactical and have strategies. We're going to look through the windshield and see what's coming up. That's really important because we know when legislation changes that there's going to be changes to the taxes. For instance, we have in 2026, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act is going to expire. And if you're married, more than likely, you'll be into a larger or higher tax bracket, which is unfortunate. The Tax Cut and Jobs Act, otherwise known as the Trump tax code, they got it installed, but they had to put a sunset provision in 2026. So we're going to go back. So we talk a lot about this window of opportunity, utilizing what we currently have to pay taxes now, potentially a lower tax bracket, so you don't have to worry about it in the future. Just being more prepared and knowing that we can guide people usually kind of helps them out with their retirement.
I love that. I love how you talked about this window of opportunity because many people may not be aware of this opportunity. And I would love to know more insights about that because I know the biggest concern that retirees have is making sure that their lifestyle is not changing, right? So how do we make sure that doesn't happen in retirement, that we can still maintain the lifestyle while we're paying taxes?
Well, it's funny you mentioned this, is that we do a lot of workshops, educational workshops, informational workshops around town at the libraries, that kind of thing, at colleges. And we talk a lot about tax planning at those workshops. And when people come to our office, they come there a lot of times because we're talking the talk and we're somewhat educated on those concepts. They're not getting that typically with their financial advisor. That's one of those differences between a financial advisor we talk about a lot and a retirement planner that understands how taxes are going to integrate and affect, hopefully positively, in your retirement.
Taxes is a really big topic right now, Bob, so I appreciate all your insights. We're going to dive into this more coming up after the break. So the bad news is taxes can be a big expense in retirement, but the good news is you have options to help lower your bill. Bob is going to explain that coming up next. We'll be right back.
Planning for retirement can be complicated. Helping create income that lasts, making sure your health care is covered, investing while managing risk, and don't forget about taxes. If you're overwhelmed, you're not alone. The good news is we have what you need to give you confidence to start planning for your ideal retirement, all in one convenient resource. You'll get answers to some of your biggest retirement questions in this easy-to-understand, practical resource. And best of all, there's no cost to you. Take the first step toward a confident retirement and get yours today.
When it comes to planning for the future, time may not always be on your side. Think about your taxes. Tax rates are historically low right now, but they'll likely be higher in the future. Our current tax rates are set to expire in just a few short years. With the right planning and strategy, you might be able to cut your tax bill in the years to come. But don't wait until it's too late to take advantage of today's lower tax rates. Let us be your partner in planning for tomorrow so you can enjoy your retirement today.
Welcome back into Retirement Perspectives with Bob Horn. Now, did you know that taxes could be your largest expense in retirement? It catches many people by surprise, but there are ways to potentially lower your tax bill. So, Bob, this is why you're here. Talk to us about some tax-saving options.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I have 4 daughters, as you know, and I always talk to my daughters about don't leave money on the table. For instance, if you go to the supermarket and they have a BOGO, buy one, get one, if you're going to buy one, you might as well get the free one as well. If they have one, buy one half off. You might as well get half off as well. So don't leave money on the table. Same thing goes for tax preparation. We don't want to leave money on the table. We want to fulfill any kind of gaps or opportunities that may be out there. So there are ways to make sure we have software in our office that we utilize that will enable us to utilize the tax brackets accordingly to make sure that we're using all the things we can do, not leaving open any gaps and utilizing all the opportunities we can when it comes to tax planning. I often talk about taxes as well. And we talk about Roth IRAs. The difference in that is kind of like a farmer. So as a farmer, would you rather pay the taxes on the seed before it goes into the ground? Or wait and pay the taxes on all the harvest when it comes out of the ground? So think of that. Most folks understand and would agree, I would rather pay the taxes in that really small seed right there and not wait in the future and pay all the taxes in this huge harvest. That's what the difference in a Roth IRA or a Roth IRA conversion is compared to a regular IRA.
I love that. I love that analogy that you just explained there. And honestly, you brought up another key saving option. A lot of people are talking about Roth IRAs, Bob. So kind of tell me why and how this could be beneficial for retarees.
It's really important, these conversions, if we can do them, if they're reasonable, because they don't make sense to everybody. And there are some cautions that I'll throw out there on Roth conversions as well. But I have a client that I work with, and I met him a few years ago, and we talked about, he was 62 years old at the time, had a little over $500,000 in pre-tax accounts, and wasn't super worried about paying the taxes on the money. Until I explained to them that at age 73, he's gonna have what they call required minimum distributions. And he was like, well, I'm not super concerned about that. And I said, it's because you're looking at it right now in today's, but we got to cast out there 10 years from now. So that $500,000, if it just makes 7% in the market, just 7%, let's say hypothetically, mathematically speaking, that $500,000 will become nearly $1 million by the time he's 73. And at 73, he's got his first required distribution. It's about 3.7%. So he would have nearly $40,000 he would have to take every single year and then some just to satisfy his required distributions. Versus if we take control of it now when he's 62 years old and start doing some Roth IRA conversions, he may very well be able to get to age 73 and not have to worry about them at all, required distributions. And so it's really important because required distributions can be a very confusing topic. It's changed recently. So it used to be 70 and a half, and then it changed to 72, and then just last year it changed to age 73. And so it's funny, when I talk at these workshops that I do, I ask people, so we all know that you have to begin your first required distribution at age 73. And they'll say, yeah. And I'll say, but what's the date you have to take it by?
Right.
And I usually get some typical answers. Somebody will raise their hand, well, by the end of the year, or by your birthday, or somebody will have a really good guess and they'll say, no, tax date, April 15th. And I'll politely tell them, those are all really great answers, but they're all really wrong. The first date that you have to take your required distribution by is April 1st of the year after you turn 73. Now, Danielle, what other day is April 1st? April Fool's Day, yeah. Do you think that's any coincidence? No. I don't think so. So the idea is to begin those distributions on time, or hopefully by doing some of these conversions, take care of that and not have to have so much required distributions when we get to age 73. So these are some of the things we talk about when people come into our office.
I love that you kind of walked us through this whole analogy here and the significance of RMDs. And you kind of talked about it a little bit, but kind of like take me back a little bit. Can RMDs, required minimum distributions, can these affect how much we pay in taxes?
Yeah, certainly they can. Because depending on the required distributions, if we have an income plan coming into retirement, maybe you have Social Security, you have pension, that kind of thing. And you might have gotten through the first 7 or 10 years of your retirement not having to take money off your IRA. But once you turn 73, Uncle Sam's going to require you to take it off. Well, that extra RMD is taxable to you now, and it's going to be put on top of your income. Well, that may get you to another tax bracket, and you're paying additional taxes on that you never thought. The problem with that is your RMD typically does not go down. The percentage you have to pay in retirement actually goes up over time. So not only hopefully your balance is going to be in your account, but also the percentage you're taking out also goes up. So it's an escalating issue in retirement. That's why we try to be very proactive, look through the windshield, and make sure we can kind of plan for that coming up in the future.
Bob, I know many retirees have questions on this too, especially if you're speaking with a current financial advisor. Do you think that it's beneficial, though, that retirees get a second opinion when it comes to this?
Absolutely. What we find a lot of times in our office is that, and we talk a lot about this, Danielle, that leading up to your retirement, a lot of folks that come to our workshops have worked with a financial advisor, and they've done a really good job of accumulating their assets. But they're there at that workshop for a reason, and that's because the paradigm is changing, and they're realizing there's a lot of other balls to juggle in retirement. That's where an actual retirement planner comes into play. That's what we specialize in our office, retirement planning. That's what my designation is. It's a RICP, Retirement Income Certified Professional. We work solely with people in retirement. That's what our specialty is, and that's what we feel we do a pretty good job of.
Bob, everything you just said, you made it sound very simple and easy. So I appreciate you taking time explaining all of this. I know many retirees have questions about this. It's very important to make sure that we're speaking with a financial advisor. So thank you for explaining that.
You're welcome.
I'm looking forward to what's coming up after the break. You're going to make it even more easy for us. So straight ahead, Bob explains how your different retirement accounts are taxed and strategies to consider to help lower your tax bill in the future. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
How does your future look in retirement? When you don't have a strategy, the future might look a little fuzzy. But with someone asking the right questions and helping you learn where you truly stand, it can become easier to work towards your goals. You need a plan to help generate income that will last as long as you need it. And the first step to creating an income plan is an analysis of where you are now. Let us help you bring your retirement into focus with your free income analysis today.
Planning for retirement can be complicated. Helping create income that lasts, making sure your health care is covered, investing while managing risk, and don't forget about taxes. If you're overwhelmed, you're not alone. The good news is we have what you need to give you confidence to start planning for your ideal retirement, all in one convenient resource. You'll get answers to some of your biggest retirement questions in this easy-to-understand, practical resource. And best of all, there's no cost to you. Take the first step toward a confident retirement and get yours today.
Did you know that your retirement accounts are taxed in different ways? Well, Bob helps you understand how your retirement accounts are taxed and ways to be tax efficient in this week's Retirement in Focus. Bob?
Thanks a lot, Danielle. So taxes are a really important piece of what we do at our office when it comes to planning your retirement. We find that tax strategies and tax mitigation concepts are really important to the lives of the families we work with. So today in our Retirement in Focus segment, we're going to talk about the 3 tax buckets and ways to leverage them in your retirement. So when we talk about the 3 different ways that money is taxed, we break it down into 3 different tax categories. We refer to them as the 3 tax buckets. And the first bucket that you want to look at when it comes to where your money is at is in things that have pre-tax treatment. So these are things like 401ks and 403bs. If you're self-employed, it could be a simple or a set plan. Also, your IRAs are in here. The money in this bucket has never seen any taxes, and at some point, it's gonna be taxed. The second category or second bucket of money is gonna be your taxable money. This is money usually found in your bank. So in a savings account, a money market account, could even be in a brokerage account that you have in the stock market. The money here potentially is taxable to you every single year. And it could be at income tax rates, but also taxable gains rates as well. And then the last category that we like a lot at our office is the stuff that is not taxed. This is gonna be your Roth IRAs or even properly structured life insurance. So here, once the money goes in, taxes have already been paid and you may not have to pay any taxes ever again. And it's a wonderful place to be. The idea is to get as much money from the pre-tax side to the not tax side as reasonably quick as possible. And so one of the things we do at our office a lot is a concept called Roth IRA conversions. This is the concept to get money from here as efficiently as possible to the non-tax side. Now, there's really 2 main ways that we take care of this at our office. I'm going to show you the popular way, but also the way that makes a lot more mathematical sense. So the first way is, say for instance, we have $100,000 in an IRA here, and we want to put it into the Roth bucket. All we're simply going to do is take that $100,000 and let's assume that we're in a 20% tax bracket. And so we take $100,000 out of IRA, pay 20% taxes, and you end up with $80,000 in the Roth IRA. And so that's a really good concept that we have, but the problem with that is that we're taking the taxes out of the most efficient taxed bucket here in the non-taxed. So there's another way of doing this where we can actually leverage a lesser efficient taxed money. That is your taxable money. So instead of paying the taxes out of your Roth IRA, what would happen if we paid them out of the taxable bucket here? So many of the families that come into my office will have some of this money set aside in a bank account, a money market, that kind of thing. In this situation, we would take $100,000 and move the entire $100,000 over to your Roth. You might say, well, Bob, we haven't paid taxes on it. All we're simply going to do, you're still in the 20% tax bracket. So all we're going to simply do is take that $20,000 out of this bucket here. We're going to leverage it and send that money to the IRS. So what we're able to do here is get the maximum amount of money into the most efficient tax bucket. Now, this is really interesting because once the money's here, if it's in the stock market, now we have the ability for that money to grow a lot more in the future, tax-free. And it's a wonderful place to be. So in summary, we have 3 different tax buckets here. Again, your IRAs, your 403Bs, your 401Ks, money that gets taxed every single year potentially, and then money that's never taxed again. 2 ways to do Roth conversions. This is the most popular way that people do them. Take the money out of the conversion and put the lesser amount in your Roth. But if we have this taxable bucket, again, take the taxes out of this bucket, move the maximum amount of money over to your Roth IRA, and it works out really, really well. So with that being said, I hope you got some really good value out of our segment today. Danielle, back to you.
Thanks, Bob. Up next, if you have questions about your retirement, stay tuned. Bob has answers for you. We'll be right back.
When it comes to planning for the future, time may not always be on your side. Think about your taxes. Tax rates are historically low right now, but they'll likely be higher in the future. Our current tax rates are set to expire in just a few short years. With the right planning and strategy, you might be able to cut your tax bill in the years to come. But don't wait until it's too late to take advantage of today's lower tax rates. Let us be your partner in planning for tomorrow so you can enjoy your retirement today.
How does your future look in retirement? When you don't have a strategy, the future might look a little fuzzy. But with someone asking the right questions and helping you learn where you truly stand, it can become easier to work towards your goals. You need a plan to help generate income that will last as long as you need it. And the first step to creating an income plan is an analysis of where you are now. Let us help you bring your retirement into focus with your free income analysis today.
Welcome back into the show. It's time to get to some of your questions about retirement. Bob, are you ready?
I am. My favorite part.
I'm super excited. Okay, let's see. Our first question comes from Marisol in San Marco. She says, I know I have to be mindful of taking my RMDs at 73. What retirement accounts are subject to RMD rules?
So this is a popular question we get a lot of times at our office. And so the main accounts that are going to be taxable to you that will have RMDs in the future are going to be typically your 401ks, pre-tax 401ks that most people are going to have if they've been working. But also if you work in the public sector, it could be a 403B, a 457. If you're self-employed, it could be a simple IRA or a SEP. And then also once you've rolled money over of the pre-tax account into an IRA, maybe you have it, you manage it yourself. All those accounts at some point are going to have some required minimum distributions if you don't do any kind of tax planning with them. The interesting thing about these is that sometimes we see at our office that folks will have a 401k, maybe a 403b, and an IRA. The funny thing is that you cannot aggregate this together. So they will each 3 have their own required distribution. And you can get yourself in trouble because if you don't take a required distribution from each one of those accounts, could be penalized. So oftentimes what we do is like to combine and roll over accounts into one IRA because you can aggregate IRAs. If you have 3 different IRAs, you can take your one required distribution out of one of the accounts and leave the other ones alone. So it's a really cool tactic to use if you have multiple IRAs that you can't use if you have multiple other work accounts.
Bob, I'm glad you brought up that keyword penalties. We want to make sure that we are not getting penalized for anything. No. So make sure you have a financial advisor near you to do this correctly. Sure. Okay, next question comes from Dale in Fleming Island. He says that my wife and I have certainly noticed the big jump in prices lately. We have some goals to remodel a kitchen and put in a pool when we retire, but now we're worried about what prices will be when retirement comes. Do you have a rule of thumb to figure that out so we'll know if we can afford it?
Yeah, so I often joke about this. Maybe I shouldn't joke about it, but I joke about it and I tell people all the time in the office, is inflation probably going to happen? Or is it definitely going to happen?
Right.
At some point, it's definitely going to happen. It's something we have to address. And we do in our retirement income planning. We do annual meetings with our clients, otherwise known as annual reviews. We call them ASTs, annual strategy and tactical meetings. We're choosing to look through the windshield. The very first topic on that checklist we use is we ask folks, tell me more about your cash flow this year, kind of what's going on, that kind of thing. And so we address it at those annual reviews. And so there's many years where inflation is not a big deal. People kind of just adjust to what's going on and they can be more tactical with it. But there are times where somebody says, hey, Bob, you set up this income plan for me, 7 years ago and things are really great, but golly, things are a little bit tighter now.
Right.
That's inflation creeping in. And so all we simply do is start moving some additional money into the income foundation that we've set up for them already.
That's right. That weekly or monthly check-in with your financial advisor is critical because many things are changing lately.
For sure.
So good insights there. Okay, our next question comes from Jacqueline in Rivertown. She says that my husband and I are considering joining a retirement community that has different levels of care as needed. I'm worried about the price though. So what do you think of communities like that?
We like them a lot. They're very simple. Typically, everything's handled right in those communities. The one big thing that you have to be concerned about in a long-term care or a nursing home, something like that, is the cost. We talk about that. There has to be a plan in place. So some people can self-fund that cost, not really worry too much about it. But for a lot of folks, they need to have some type of policy in place. And so you've heard about long-term care insurance policies. They can be a really good conduit to help you pay for some of the costs that you might have in those retirement communities. Also, there's a lot of life insurance products, believe it or not, that have riders on them that now can help you offset some of the costs in some of those facilities as well. We have to use those a lot too, because with a long-term care policy, if you pass away, you may not get much of any benefit. But with a life insurance policy, you can use it if you pass away. Obviously, your heirs get the money, but also you can leverage that cash value or the death benefit for long-term care needs. And so there's a lot of ways to kind of address that situation when it comes to expenses in a retirement community.
Sounds like a lot of options that we got to make sure that we consider all of them.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, next question comes from Vince in Fruit Cove. He says that I'm 54 years old and my employer just offered a Roth 401k option. I'll probably work another 10 to 12 years. Is it worth switching to that from a traditional 401k? Really good question there.
So Vince, this is a great question. So let me address this. We really love the Roth 401k concept. We like Roth IRAs as well. The problem with the Roth IRA is the low limitation that we have on being able to add money to it. With the Roth 401k, you can add a ton of money to your 401k, upwards of over $30,000 this year if you're over 50 years old. And so you can put a ton of money away, pay taxes now, and so it's never, ever taxed again. It's a great conduit to use. The only problem, the only caution I would say on this is that if you're choosing to switch from a pre-tax 401k to a Roth, which is post-tax, you're gonna feel that bite a little bit more in your paycheck, simply because in the pre-tax, you're not paying taxes on it. When it goes to the Roth, you're gonna feel that when it comes to your paycheck, you're paying taxes on it. So one of the things that we can do is if you're, say, for instance, you're putting 15% into your 401k, maybe we back it off to maybe 12 and then switch it to a Roth IRA, see how that feels for a paycheck or two. We can always increase it. But I like the ability to maximize those Roth 401ks for sure. It's a great tool to use.
Bob, you always make everything sound so simple and easy, so I always appreciate your insights. Thank you so much. That's all the questions we have for today. But if you have a question, submit it, and we may just answer it on a future show. And if you want to know ways to generate lifetime income, reduce your tax bill, and maintain your lifestyle in retirement, don't hesitate. Reach out now to start your planning for your ideal retirement. For Bob and the team at NuVenture Financial Group, I'm Danielle Martin, wishing you a healthy and happy journey to and through retirement. Have a great day.